Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about how to become a data scientist. Every day, the data is being generated in huge volume in the world across the world. So, processing the data to get useful information that can be useful for business is utmost important. And nowadays, that is the reason we need more people in data science area. So, in this video, what kind of skills required to become a data scientist and what kind of role and responsibility they are going to work in different phases of data science life cycle. That is what we are going to see in this video. Data scientist. A data scientist is someone who gathers and analyzes with the goal of reaching a conclusion. That means, as we said, there is huge volume of data every day being generated with the help of machines, sensors, and a lot of way the data is being generated. But when all this raw data is useless if we are not able to process it clearly. So to get some kind of conclusion from this raw data, the data needs to be processed. That is the responsibility of the data scientist. They need to collect the data and process the data to get some kind of conclusion. This can be done with a variety of techniques. They can use a variety of techniques. And once the data is processed, then it is to be communicated. What is the insight or what kind of decision the business can take, all those information needs to be communicated to the business people, for which they can present the data in data visualization, or they can observe some kind of data patterns that can be revealing some kind of business insights or business hidden pattern. If it is that is not noticeable when it is presented in a spreadsheet as a raw form, so they need to identify or observe what kind of hidden patterns available that can be presented with a data visualization to the business. So at its core, data science is the practice of looking for meaning in mass amount of data. So when they see the mass amount of data, their responsibility is how the insights inside the data can be brought up. Either it may be a pattern or through the visualization. They need to bring the insights so that can be useful for the business to continue their business. And now we are going to see a real world data science example. A cell phone company wants to find out which current customers are most likely to switch services to their competitor. That means a cell phone, we know very well, every cell phone they are losing their customers every month. In our example, we consider a cell phone. They feel that the attrition rate or in the people who are leaving from their service to their competitor is high. If they feel, then what they will do is they will hire a data scientist like you. So the data scientist would come into the organization and they would see all the historical data and the formal data, and they will especially looking into the data that is pertaining to the people who have already left the service. They try to discover any certain pattern among the leaving customers. There may be a pattern. They might have found that the people who need a certain amount of bandwidth are leaving, because for that bandwidth and the service provided by this cell phone is not that much good for them, they feel. Or they can also find another one pattern saying that the people in the age between 35 to 45 are most likely to switch. Then there may be some reason, because they might have been married recently. These are all some kind of pattern. It is what we are talking or examples. So they can find this kind of hidden pattern from the data. Then they can communicate this information to the cell phone so that they can change their business plan or marketing efforts to engage and retain these customers. So it is one of the real-time example of data scientists, what they are doing in their project. One of the main things for the data scientist is they need to know any one of the programming languages that are used for data science. There are plenty of languages available, but we are going to analyze 4 languages in this slide. One is Python, another one is R, the third one is SAS, and the fourth one is the SQL languages. These are all very prominent, everyone knows that. That's the reason we have taken these 4 languages for our analysis. These 4 languages are analyzed in 4 categories. One is best for, the another one is availability, the third one is easy to learn, fourth one is advantages, and fifth one is the disadvantages. First, in the Python, what is it best for? It is best for general programming languages. Python when we talk about the best for, Python is best for general programming language. What is general programming language? And the Python is not only used for data science or data analytics, it can also be used for web application development, web scraping, automation tool, or a different kind of area the Python can be used. So that is the reason it is called a general programming. If your language is used for more than one domain, then that is called a general programming. If any a language is used for any particular domain, then that is a domain specific language. In that case, Python is a general programming language. So learning Python, you can use that knowledge in different areas. That is one of the things when we are talking about Python, it is best for. And it is also used for data analysis, deep learning, and repeated task. When we come to R is specifically for statistical analytical data analytics. It has been developed for the data science, that is statistical analysis, and it is very good for single process of the data. SA is also a branded company product. It is also developed for statistical analytics and data analysis. We know SQL. SQL is for the database manipulating. It is used to query the data, delete the data, update data, and inserting data into the tables of the database. So database manipulation, we are using the SQL, and it can extract the data from the database and wrangling up the data. All these things we can do with the SQL. So this is the best thing for SQL when we are talking about best for. Then the next category is availability. Availability, Python and R are open source. That means you don't have to spend any money for license. It is free. You can use it immediately. So you don't have to pay any money for using Python and R. It is free. At the same time, SAS is a closed source. You need to get a license to use it. So it is a paid version. So you have to spend money for using the SAS. SQL is both open and closed. Some of the SQL are available as open sources, and the remaining are paid sources. For example, MySQL, Postgres, these are all open source. SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, these are all paid sources. So it is having both open as well as paid sources. And easy to learn. The next category we are going to talk about is easy to learn. Python is very easy to learn, especially for software engineers. Software engineers who already know any one of the programming language can easily learn Python. For example, if they know Java or C or C++, they can easily learn Python. That is the advantage the Python has to easily learn. At the same time, R is steep to learn. It has a steep learning curve. That means you have to initially have difficulty to learn R language. But at the same time, if you are new to programming languages, you haven't got any programming knowledge or you haven't got any experience in working with any programming language, then relatively it is easier for you rather than for the software engineer. They have already got programming language. So that is an advantage. If you are not a programmer of any language, then it is easy for you to learn R. SA is easy to learn, especially if you already know SQL, then it is very easy to learn SAS. And SQL, you know that SQL is relatively very easy when you are using simple SQL queries. It may be select, insert, update, or delete. It is easy to learn immediately. But when you are going deeper and deeper, when you are joining together more than one tables and you are processing data with a complex relationship, then it will become difficult to learn. That is the situation for the SQL. When we are talking about the advantages, Python is easy to deploy, and we already discussed that Python is a general purpose language. It can be used by corporation for different areas, web development, web application development, automation tool. Likewise, they can use Python in different areas. When we are talking about R requires minimal coding for statistical models. That is one of the advantages R has. And SAS is highly reliable, secure and stable. Why? Because you are paying money for their license, they will take care of all this quality. They will make your application reliable, secured and stable. When we are talking about the advantage of SQL, it is very readable. When you go through the SQL statements, you can understand from where the data is being fetched, what kind of conditions you are providing. All those things are what are the tables to be joined on which column. All those information you can easily learn or easily readable from the SQL statement. When we are moving to the next category, disadvantages, Python requires a rigorous testing. That is the disadvantage of Python. When we are talking about R is very statistics oriented, not a general purpose language. We have already discussed that R is not a general purpose language. It is not being used for web application development or web scraping, automation. However, R can be used for ETL, and nowadays they are giving more packages for R to enter into a different areas. But generally speaking, R is not a general purpose programming. SA is the disadvantages is relatively expensive. You need to pay money for their license, so it is relatively expensive. SQL is not a general purpose language that we have already discussed. It is a very specific language used for manipulating database, and it has a very limited capability. So these are the comparison we have done with the programming languages. It is up to you. You should be familiar with one or more than one languages for your career in data science. Next topic we are going to discuss is data science life cycle. When you are entering into a project as a data scientist, what is the cycle you are going to follow to complete your task? That is, first you starts with the business understanding, then data understanding, third one is the data preparation and exploring the data, and data modeling and different kinds of data model task. Then you have to enter into business understanding again. You have to get what your understanding is correct. Then you have to modify all those things. If you need more data, then you can again go through the cycle again. This is the life cycle of data scientist. In business understanding, first thing you have to learn is what is the problem they are saying, the business problem they are saying. Because once we understand the business problem properly, then only we can move on to find out the solutions, for which you need to translate the data questions into something actionable. They may say some problems, then you can make some questions. That questions will become actionable when we are presenting the solution. So that is very important. You will often have ambiguous inputs from the people who have problems. Actually, they can say something in the business terms. They can say, I want this brand or that. That can be ambiguous. We cannot get a proper meaning of what they need or what they expect. Then you have to start by understanding their goals. From the discussion with them, you need to understand what is their goal and that how that can be attained with the use of data. All those things you need to understand. So before you can start thinking of solutions, you will want to work with them to clearly define the problem. Defining the problem is the utmost important in the business understanding. First you have to define the problem, then only you can move on to find out the solution. While defining the problems, you have to get the consent from the business people what your understanding of the problem is correct or not. Then only you can move. So to give a great way of understanding the problem or defining the problem, you can ask a lot of questions to the people. That are, who are the customers? The business people, you can ask them, who are your customers? What kind of customers you have? What are the characteristics that define your customers? These questions you can ask them. Why are they buying your product or our product? What is the reason? What is the objective of the product for which the users are buying, the customers are buying? That kind of questions you can ask. How do we predict if a customer is going to buy our product? If it is a site or it is a shop, how do you know the customer who is coming to your site will buy your product? What is the different segments you are performing well and those that are performing below expectations? Actually, the people and the customers can be segmented based on their democratic characteristics or buying quality, buying behavior or their life cycle. We can segregate the people into different clusters. So, for example, a cluster may have characteristics of they are from suburban areas, their annual income is this range, and their age group is this range, by which you can also segregate the people. And the company may have from this segment of people they expect this much sellings. If some segments are fulfilling their expectations, some segments are not fulfilling their expectations, then you can ask them which kind of customer are not fulfilling your expectation. You expect more sales, but very limited sales is done with that people. You can ask that kind of questions. Then how much money will we lose if we don't actually sell the product to these groups? If that group is not buying at your expectation, what is the monetary loss? Whether it is bearable or not, you can ask them this question also. The next phase in the data science life cycle is data understanding. You have already defined the business program and we have got the approval from the business people saying that your understanding is correct. Then you will move into the data and data part. Now you have to look into the data available in the organization. It may be internal data or external data. You have to find which data you have to identify which data can be useful for determining the solution of the problem you are handling. So now you have to get into in the internal data by coding the database, or is there any requirement that to purchase the external data sets? If it is internal data, then you have to get the information about how to access the internal data, and if any data sets that needs to be purchased outside, then you have to sit with the stakeholders how that can be done. All those things you have to do in the data understanding. So in this data understanding phase, you need to identify the required data and how to access those data, whether it may be internal or external, how to access those data. That is what you are doing in the data understanding phase. The next phase is data preparation. Once you have got the data, you need to prepare the data. The data what you have collected is raw data. It may contain some errors. It may contain some format issues, and the data might have got some corrupted. All those things you need to look into in this phase, so that the data can be made suitable for further processing, that is data analysis and model creation. So in this phase, oftentimes data can be quite messy. That is, the data can be, the format of the data can be different, and you are getting data from different sources. One source, a particular column may contain a different format, and another source the same column can contain a different format. All those kind of messy you can see that one. So in this phase, you will want to check the following common errors, that is missing values. Perhaps customer with an initial contact date. Actually, one of our analysis is how long the customers are being with the company. How long they have been a member associated with this company. But when you see into the data, some of the customers record don't have any date for initial contact. So in that case, it is difficult for you to find out how long they are associated with a company. And some of the column may contain invalid entries. For example, some column may require only numerical values, but that column contains text value because of wrong mistaken entries. So those kind of things you need to identify. And the time zones differences, in some cases in the time zone difference is very much important because you are handling and the all over world the different countries data, or within USA also we have different time zones. But and your one of your tasks or one of your goals is to find out at what time the buyers are buying the product, or at what time the sales is very low. All those things you need to find out, either it is 11 a.m. or 4 p.m. likewise. But if there is no time zone available, it is difficult to come out with that kind of conclusion. So some data cannot have a time zone, then how it can be resolved, you can discuss with the business people. This is one kind of problems you might have encountered. And the next one is the date range errors. For example, the sales have happened before the registered data. There may be some entry difficult, or the data might have been corrupted. Because of that, the sales date is before the registration data. So these are all some examples of corrupted data or messy data that you have to work with in this phase to correct it, so that it can be used for further processing, data analysis and data model creation. And actually, when we as a data scientist, this is the important part. Most of your time, sometimes it may be more than 70% of our effort will be in this phase to correct the data. So we need to get the data corrected, because the quality of the data is the utmost important to get correct results. So if the data is garbage, and then the result is also garbage, so we need to be sure that the data we are going to use for our analysis should be correct. So you have to spend more effort and most of your time in this area before entering into the next phase. The next phase is exploring the data. Here you are the next phase of the data science life cycle is exploring the data. You can prepare the data, you have got the data with the proper quality, then you are going into the exploring the data. In this phase you are getting more insights from the raw data. You are using a different kind of technologies to get more insights. You have to look at some of the most interesting patterns that can help explain why sales are reduced for this group, which we discussed that there may be segments of customers. In particular customer group, the sales is not up to our expectation. So you can see the interesting patterns among this in this particular group. You might have noticed that the people in that group are not so active in social media such as Twitter or Facebook. Even though some of them have accounts in Twitter or Facebook, they are not so much active. That kind of pattern you might have revealed. Or you may also notice that most of them are older than your general audiences. From that you can begin to trace patterns, you can analyze more deeply. So in this phase you are exploring the data and getting more insights why these people are not buying, and you might have found out that they are not so active in the social medias, or their age is not somewhat more than the average age of your customer. This kind of pattern you might have revealed in this phase. So you need to explore the data again and deeply to get more insights before entering into the next phase, that is the model selection or the modeling the data. After exploring the data and getting more insights about the data, that is what we have found out are the people in that group are not so active in social media, and their age is somewhat higher than the average age of our customers. Then you are entering into the data modeling phase. Here you are going to apply your statistical, mathematical and technological knowledge, and you are going to create a predictive model that compares your underperforming group with your average customer. you know very well, some group are not underperforming, not that much good. You are going to compare this with the average customer using a predictive model. You would find out that the age and the social media activity are the significant factors in predicting who will buy the product. So when you are using the predictive model, you can also find out which features are influencing more to get the outcome, and you have found out that the features that are mostly influencing are the social media activity and the age. Then and you can also, while you are discussing with the business people, you might have already known that the business are using social media for their marketing. Heavily they are using social media for their marketing efforts, that is aiming to the younger audience. That is the reason it is not being reached to the old people, because they are not so active in the social media. So you have found out that the company is spending more money or more effort on marketing in social media, that is aiming to the younger people. Now if the company wants to get old people or the group of the underperforming segment is also buying their product to their expectation level, then they needed to concentrate some other marketing efforts, not only on the social media effort. Because you might have known that certain demographic and the people from some demographic people, they need to be contacted by telephone, that is call center, instead of the social media, because they are not so active in social media. They may expect that they need to be contacted by telephone. So in that case, you can suggest to the people, you can suggest to the business people, saying that you can divert some effort and money to the call center from social media. That kind of solution you can provide to the business people. This is the way a data scientist is working. Taking a project, they will understand the business problem, then they will understand the data. They have to prepare the data that is suitable for data analysis and data modeling. Then they will move to the exploring the data to get more insights, and then you are going to model to make sure that what you have understood in the exploring is correct, and you can also present the result to the business people. Then you have to communicate the results of the analysis to the business people. It is very important. What you have found out is for the business people. So once you have presented your results, if they are immediately entering into any kind of actions relating to this conclusion, then your communication is very good. Then for which you have to weave a story based on your findings that has to be very appeal to the business people, so that they can enter any one of the actions required by this analysis. So it is important that the client understand why the insights you have uncovered are important. They need to understand what is the insight and why the insights are very much important for the business people to understand, for which you have to communicate properly to them. Proper communication will mean the differences between action and inaction and your proposals. That is, based on your action communications, based on their your communication impact, if the business people are taking actions, then your communication is good. Otherwise, you have to improve your communication so that they can enter into action immediately. So that kind of conclusion you can come to based on your communications. So your communication should be very prompt, so that the business people can take it upon seriously. You need to craft a compelling story here that ties your data with their knowledge. Story should be properly weaved, so that based on the visuals or based on the patterns you have found, the hidden patterns you have found, and that should be very appealing to the business people. That kind of story should be properly made. And you start by explaining the reasons behind the underperformance of the older demographic. You can use your visual effects, the charts and other things, to clearly explain the reasons why the underperformance of the older demographic people, because they are not properly reached, because they are not socially active, social media active. so we need to contact them through some other means, that may be in person or telephonic call. So these kind of reasons you can explain to them clearly. Then you move to concrete solution that address the problem. We could shift some resources from social media to personal calls. So you can specify the what would be better for the business if we want to reach that underperforming group. Would be, instead of only concentrating on social media, we can also concentrate some amount to the telephonic call centers, or in person marketing, or whatever way you can specify. So this is the way you have to communicate your results and your solutions to the customer, to the people. This is the life cycle of data science. So when you are when you want to become a data scientist, you must know that what kind of skills you need and what kind of responsibility you will have in the data science life cycle. That you can be very sure before entering into this field. Thank you everyone.